feeling like maybe great. We should get started. Welcome everybody to the STEM workshop. I'm Dolly Ledeen, and I have some co-hosts with me today. But we're from the Wisconsin Afterschool Network, and our partner is from 4-H, UW Extension. What I'd like to ask you to do is please rename yourself so we see where you're from and what organization you're with. If you're with an after-school agency or what organization you're with, that would be really helpful. Some of you are with school districts, some of you are with community centers and other agencies. So we want to see who you're with. Okay, and we'd like to see you if that's at all possible. So thank you for joining us today. And so I'm going to let Joanna introduce herself, and then I'll go to the slides.
Good morning. Thanks, Dolly. My name is Joanna Skozacek, and as Dolly mentioned, I work for the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the Division of Extension with the 4-H program primarily. And I am based in Madison, although my role is statewide.
Great. So one thing we want to ask you to put in the chat is, when you think of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and you picture a STEM activity or kids engaging in STEM, educators leading youth in STEM activities, think of a word that comes to your mind. What's the word that first comes to your mind when you picture a STEM activity or yourself leading a STEM activity? And would you put that in the chat, please? All right, Angie. Experiments. Self-leading. Cindy, do you want to tell us any more about that? Maybe I'm guessing this might give us the idea that you're not real confident leading them yet. Hopefully you will be. Curiosity. Great. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and just keep adding. Thanks for doing that. But I'm going to start sharing my screen so we get to our presentation here. Let's see. Screen share. Okay, everybody see that? All right, so our work today is really a partnership between the Wisconsin Afterschool Network and 4-H and UW Extension and WSST, which is the Wisconsin Society for Science Teachers, that we're working very closely with this year to administer this grant that we have. And so it's really trying to bring together some of the most important agencies and organizations in Wisconsin that work with after-school programs and with STEM. Our goals for today, Joanna?
Oh, thanks, Dolly. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing today, we really want to make sure that you know about our two different organizations that are working together, 4-H and Wisconsin Afterschool Network. We want you to have sort of an overview of some national, state, and local initiatives to improve STEM education around the state. In after school specifically. We want to share some resources. We always know that that's an important part of our workshops, is to be able to share resources for implementing out of school time STEM programming. And we want to have time for discussion of out of school time STEM engagement strategies, and also a discussion of sort of in a regional idea of how we can work together to develop plans to implement STEM programming and bridge those resources that we're talking about. Next slide, please.
Great. So I am working with the Wisconsin Afterschool Network. I'm assuming many of you are familiar with the organization that is really working on a statewide level to promote more high quality programming for youth in after school program, partnering with other organizations, promoting policy that supports after school programs, and really overseeing and promoting program quality.
And so, as I mentioned, I am from Division of Extension, 4-H Youth Development, and you may or may not know much about 4-H Youth Developments, and I'm happy to discuss any questions that you have. But as sort of an umbrella overview, 4-H, the 4-H organization is the largest youth serving organization in the U.S. And I think you may be familiar with the 4-H Clover. You may see those locally. It's a national organization that's hosted in each state through a land-grant university. So it's university-based STEM education or other education. Here in Wisconsin, each county has an extension office. And in that extension office in your county, there should be a dedicated 4-H or youth development educator. We sometimes use different titles, but a youth development educator whose role is to implement local STEM or local educational programming for young people. The programming is determined by community level needs for positive youth development. And so it can absolutely be STEM, which we have a lot of STEM. You may be more familiar with some of our agricultural programs, but we also do arts and communication, etc. And our goal is really what we call the Wisconsin idea, which is to bring the resources of the university system to every person in Wisconsin, no matter where they live. And so that's the goal that we try to aspire to. Next.
Okay, I'm having trouble advancing slides here, and something is goofy. Sorry, everybody. Let's see, I'm going to stop this for a second. I'm going to start over. There it went. Okay, technical difficulties. Why would that happen? Let's see. Oh, here we go. There we go. 4-H. All right, here we go. So through the Wisconsin Afterschool Network, we have a grant from a national program called the Million Girls Moonshot. And the Moonshot is not a specific curriculum or training program. It's a way to create a system for educators and youth to learn about and access all the good quality programs that are out there in STEM, and to share ideas with each other. So our job is to facilitate that sharing. In both the national program and here in Wisconsin, we really want this to be a two-way street. We want to learn about the work you're doing. So the Million Girls Moonshot helps to get the word out about really high quality training programs for educators that really meet the needs of all types of educators that work with kids. Really high quality curriculum and programs that are out there. But we also, as I said, want to find out what you're doing. And so there's, for example, a program called the Flight Crew that is young women from around the country who have shown some leadership in STEM and really elevating them and highlighting the work that they do. We have one from Wisconsin this year. She's from Milwaukee, and she actually participated in some Milwaukee School of Engineering after school programs and then started her own after school program for other kids in Milwaukee who didn't have access to that. So looking at kids that really do show some leadership and educators that are doing high quality work. And so we want to hear from you and try to elevate your work and share it with other people around the state and around the nation. So the Million Girls Moonshot in every state might look different. It's a grant program, and so it's designed to really meet the needs that are in each state. And here in Wisconsin, what we're really doing is focusing on creating networks. There's no lack of STEM programs already happening in Wisconsin. In many cases, it's just a lack of access, a lack of connections. Many of the sites that provide STEM programming have not even thought about connecting with your sites or with out of school time sites in general. And so it's trying to bridge those gaps between informal STEM organizations like museums and libraries. 4-H, that's why we're bringing them into this conversation. They have a whole lot to offer, but we can also help them with some youth development things as well. Science and businesses that often want to help increase the STEM workforce are getting involved, and school day teachers. The K through 12 world has a lot going on in STEM, and there's a lot we can do to work with them and complement what they do. That's the partnership with WSST that we have this year, and we have a grant program that we're starting that involves school day teachers partnering with after school providers, and you will be receiving information about that grant shortly.
And so we don't want to, burden you with too many models or programming models, but we do want to highlight sort of this idea of positive youth development. And no matter if you're in the Wisconsin After School Network or in 4-H or in other youth serving organizations, we wanted to just highlight that although we might have different terminology for a lot of these things in learning how to do positive youth development, they overlap quite a bit. And so we are really all moving toward the same goal. We might just have a little bit different ways of looking at it. And so in Wisconsin After School Network, they have the Clover model for youth development, and you can see it there: belonging, reflection, active engagement, and assertiveness. I just wanted to mirror our 4-H youth development essential elements, which is sort of what we aspire to in positive youth development: independence, belonging, generosity, and mastery. And so we think a lot about the content objectives, and yes, those are important. So specific to STEM, and we'll talk about those in the next slide, but really what we're doing, no matter what, if we're doing STEM or we're doing literacy or we're doing arts, we really want to keep in mind that we want to build this positive youth development framework. And so no matter what the kids are actually doing, we want to make sure that they are getting these life skills in terms of feeling like they belong, feeling like they have more confidence in groups. And so that's really, really important. And we don't want to lose that as we start talking about STEM. Next slide, please. And so as we start talking a little bit more in depth about STEM, we want to really talk about, like, what are our STEM goals? And it's usually not content driven. What we really want to do, again, is focus on life skills. No matter if they're doing programming, computer programming, or robotics, or if they're doing catapults, we really want them to instill some of this idea of, I can think like a scientist. I can problem solve if there's a problem in front of me. I can maybe be a scientist or engineer. I have the confidence to go into those fields. And those are things that are really, really important. STEM goals for educators. And so we do a lot at our level in terms of workshops for educators. And it goes back to some of the comments in the chat box in terms of, my goal working with educators is really to help them feel confidence and competence in leading students through STEM experiences and to build these skills that we just talked about in terms of STEM identity. And how do we get to that confidence? And it's not about being an expert in the technical aspects of robotics. It's really about those facilitation skills that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Go ahead, Dolly.
Oh, so yes, so we just found this quote and in our work with 4-H that we thought was really meaningful. That started with this guy in the 1920s who said, we're not trying to make farmers out of boys, it's about the boy, and good judgment and character. And so the counterpart here in 2023 is we're not trying to make scientists or engineers out of all these girls. We don't care how many robotic competitions, it's the young person we're interested in and the growth mindset and thinking and social skills. So that's the priority and really what's behind all of the STEM work that we're doing. Okay, again, I'm having trouble advancing and I don't know if it's my computer. I'm wondering if I should have you do this. Joanna, I keep running into this problem.
I shall
it's
do
just
it.
Not. Do you want to share your screen?
I can.
Yeah.
Let me get up the
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody.
We're educators, we're used to problem solving, right? We just go with the flow.
Yeah. So I think what's going to be next is the science and engineering practices. And so you might have heard about the next generation science standards that are coming out or that have come out for K through 12 formal education. And the thing that's really relevant for you is that one of the big areas of focus of those next generation science standards is teaching science in the way that science and scientists and engineers actually work. So this is the science and engineering practices. And so these are really an important focus of these new science standards is working the way and learning the way that scientists and engineers really work. It's the next generation science standards have 3 dimensions. And one of those is the topics and the content learning that you might be familiar with. Another one is cross-cutting concepts, things like patterns and systems that run through all the sciences. But this is the one where I think after-school educators can really dive in and really do more than is often possible in a K through 12 formal classroom, because you have more time. You have more of the ability to let kids just mess around with stuff and come up with their own ideas and ask questions and mess around with stuff to engage in these science and engineering practices. But by focusing their attention and focusing the activities that you're doing on some of these STEM skills, you're really in a good position to combine them with the youth development school skills that you have. So next slide. So this is just superimposed of those same science skills, such as asking questions and figuring out designing experiments and how those relate to youth development skills. And it's really a perfect match. So we can, yeah. Joanna.
And so how do we envision doing this, right? When we're in the classroom, how can we think about how we're going to involve the kids in this way? And often I like to try to think about this recipe, which is the experiential learning model, or sometimes it's called inquiry experiential learning model. And it's really do, reflect, apply is the goals of this model. And so we have an engaging hands-on thing that kids are doing, whatever it is, we're getting them active. We have them reflect and think about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and be able to explain that to other people, whether in their group or whether in the large group. So we're sort of developing those problem solving and communication skills. And then we want them to be able to apply that knowledge. And so whether they're making catapults or whether they are doing robotics, how do those things that they're learning, either life skills or technical skills, apply to the real world? And that's really a key to learning. And so we have them generalize those skills and apply them to real world situations. And then we go through the process again. They ask more questions. So that's really the rudimentary basics. And as you become more confident, you'll understand that this model isn't static. It is something that moves and is a living, breathing thing. And it doesn't have to follow these specific steps in this specific order. You can really look to tailor that to what your young people are doing. But they should have these core three things: do, reflect, apply, as part of their experience.
So we've talked about what STEM looks like. Now we want you to see it in action. And we also want you to think about how to best lead kids to engage them in developing science skills. What skills do you need to lead STEM activities? So as you're watching this video, we want you to think about, what did you see the kids doing or hear them saying? What's the evidence that they're engaged? And then what questions did the instructor ask that made kids do the thinking? Really think about what that instructor is doing to engage them. And after we watch the video, we'll just kind of popcorn around and ask you all to contribute what you saw and what you noticed from this video. So.
We have got a letter from these two. It's kind of like a track book. There's this brother and sister, India and Jacob. They send us problems. Pretty much always what we're going to do is try to solve these problems. So what we're going to do now is read about this problem. Hi, everyone. Jacob and I spent a lot more time engineering drop copters to try to get them to fall very slowly. Have you guys ever made a drop copter before? And any guesses to what it would be? And it spins and drops. Awesome. You want to read that?
The criteria for your jet capture designs is that they should fall as slowly as possible. Remember, if the jet captures fall very slowly, we'll be able to make more photos of the mystery area. You can't wait to see how it goes.
How does he say it moves again? Slowly. Awesome, Gretchen. And it spins. That's the motion we're going to be looking for. And why is it useful to have it drop slowly? Yes, you can take more pictures. So we're going to work on making these drop copters together. I've got these templates for you guys to use. You guys can use these if you want as your main way of building a drop copter. But this is just a template. It's just an idea. So if you feel like you want to work with some paper, I've got some cardstock to make a different type of drop copter. That's an awesome way to maybe build a new technology. You guys are so focused. Wow. Mine's still about time too. Not as much spinning. Oh, slow spin. So let's see. It looks like Gretchen's is spinning more. How many wings does yours have, Gretchen? Oh, sorry. 1 second. Perfect length. Okay, so it starts better maybe when the wings face up. Wow, lots of paper clips. Makes it go faster. All right, if you've got a flying device, hold it up in the air and let me see it. We got one. I'm gonna get a stopwatch on my phone if you guys want to see the time. One at a time, and see how long each one takes to drop, okay? Julius is going for 2.46 seconds. And let's see your next one. Ready? Which one, Julie, do you think is more faster? The first one fell faster, the one with 2 wings fell faster than the one with 4 wings. 2.09 seconds for Solana. Or slower. Go slower. All right, we have got 20 minutes to improve on our technologies, to improve on our drop copters. There's 20 more building minutes.
Yeah, maybe.
What are you gonna do to improve your design, Solana? What's your plan? Looks like you're maybe taking it together, making it more compact. Can you go to floor that's tighter together? It looks like what Brett is holding. Have you guys ever seen something like that? Birds look like that. What else? These, a very special type of seed looks like that. Yeah, the helicopter seed, they come from maple trees. You think it's kind of slower than the first one you made? Yeah, so test it out. Maybe we could draw them both at the same time. We have about 5 more building minutes before we test. Let's see, designing grid tree. It's taking a while. About 4 seconds, sort of. You ready? This one is the. Wow. Okay. Next one. Okay, flying mushroom. Okay. So let's think about how you guys built these. Did we address what the problem was, what we need to do? Yeah. Did you guys plan out your designs? Yeah, did we improve the designs? And yeah, and then did we test them again? Yeah, so we use all the same steps that like engineers at NASA would use, that different scientists would use today. Did you like this project today? Thumbs up if you like it. We can't do one more. If you guys want to do more at recess, do more at recess, but right now we have to clean up.
Okay. So I had a little trouble hearing some of what she said. I don't know if it was my system or not. But let's see, should we stop sharing for a minute and just have people talk about what they saw? Yeah.
I apologize. You should have mentioned if you couldn't hear, I could have adjusted my speaker.
Well, I thought it might have been my issue, but I don't know. Anyway, so what did you see or hear that gave you some ideas of how kids were engaged and what the leader was doing to encourage that? Any thoughts? Can I pick on Angie since I can see you?
I would say that the leaders were asking questions about the project, explaining to the kids what they were doing, and that's what I seen. I was having a little trouble hearing too, but that's what I seen.
Nancy, any thoughts? Oops, you're muted.
There you go. I also think that anytime you can get children involved in making an activity and lead that and let them explore, which you could see that she was very good at letting them try what they thought was going to work even in her own mind, she knew it probably wasn't. And I think that's so important to let them just make it and then learn about, because to me, when they experiment, they have to learn about failure also.
That's really important, just to let them do it. I noticed that somebody raised their hand, but I'm not sure who it was. So if someone wants to contribute, please do. Okay, otherwise, Ricky, do you have some thoughts?
And Dolly, there's a few comments in the chat
Oh, I
box
see, I
about
see.
what people observed also.
Yeah, so Cindy observed that the instructors helped children find the words they needed and that's really important too, just helping them develop that vocabulary and be able to communicate in a science way. Had kids reading instructions and encouraging questions. Um, Ariana, thank you. I think in my program, I need to train staff better on how to interact with children and to be more engaged. Just tell them the instructions without delving. Yeah, you need to become a scientist yourself. And I think maybe that's the first step, is helping staff to really be confident in doing the science themselves, and that they don't have to know the background. They just have to be curious and do it along with the kids. And they don't have to be experts. I think that's really important. Any other thoughts? Thank you for sharing those.
I saw that kids were sort of interacting with each other more than interacting with the instructor. And so when they did their first test, some of them worked really well, some of them didn't. And then I saw when they were back modifying that they were kind of talking with each other to get ideas from each other, which is really what we strive for, instead of them asking the instructor, about how to, what was right and what was wrong. Because there's typically not an answer for that. And so it's just about like, let's see if we can make it a little bit better and then talk about it. Or maybe it is not better, and let's talk about what you did to have that result.
And so what we saw was that talking was just important as the actual STEM activity. Go ahead, Shaheen.
At the end, like when she was doing the stuff, the kids weren't saying a lot. She was sort of saying the words, but I could tell that the kids were like all working on their papers, really engaged. They weren't all doing the same cookie cutter thing. They were all busy making different stuff and asking about whether they could like keep doing it and doing it again. So obviously they were doing a lot of science, even though they weren't like quite able to articulate it yet.
Right. Cindy just put a good comment in about time, that you often just have really limited time in your programs. And so that's a barrier. And I suppose there are a number of ways to deal with that in terms of stretching out the time, but that you can come back to the same activity in multiple sessions during your program. You could do the initial making of the drop copters one day, and then the next day you come back with your redesign. So it is important to have enough time to do that thinking. And I think so often you have to think about cleaning up and all the other things that go on in your program, and it's difficult to get to that processing part. You're just worried about the physical aspect of doing this activity, but are they really learning those thinking skills if they're not engaged in that conversation? So that's the really important part. So now we could go back to the slides a little bit, unless anybody else has any other thoughts about that. So when we think about coming to a STEM workshop, usually you're looking for ideas of hands-on stuff that you could do. And we want to provide those for you. And we will provide some of those for you. But giving you activities without thinking about the skills isn't going to get you to the goals that we have for kids, to really be able to think and process STEM kinds of skills. And so these are the kinds of strategies that you may have seen in the video, and that your staff or yourself may need in order to lead STEM activities. And so there are many of the same kinds of skills that you need for any youth development activity, preparing the environment, getting kids active, managing groups, but really facilitating those STEM kinds of skills through modeling. And so that's why I think somebody, brought up that it's really difficult sometimes for staff to see themselves leading STEM when they might not be comfortable participating in it themselves. But by being the leader and the guide and the another active participant in the activity, they are really doing the best job they can at leading it. Connecting prior knowledge, giving youth some control, asking purposeful questions. That's something that you saw that leader doing very well in the video. Those are skills that are really more focused on youth development than on science themselves. And those are the more important ones in knowing how to lead STEM.
And so we want to share some resources. Of course, there are lots and lots of different resources out there, and it might be a situation where you're more overwhelmed by the number than it is to find something that'll work. And so we wanted to just give you a little snippet of some of the things that our group has been working with a lot, both in Wisconsin Afterschool Network and in 4-H STEM, that are free and we know that are of high quality, that really focus on that youth development and really try to engage kids in that reflection time. And so here's a list. I'm not going to read them all. I mean, definitely 4h.org, Learning with the Clover. So you can go to our national website. They are free, but you have to sign in. And so you just need a username and password because we try to track who is using our materials. Definitely Wisconsin PBS, which is also a division of extension arm. Our colleagues at Wisconsin PBS have a lot of different materials for young people. There's also things for the facilitator. And so it's not as much about the activity, but it gives you some ideas about how you might facilitate an activity with young people. And so that can be really important for people to gain confidence in facilitation skills.
Okay, so we want to take a few minutes and we're going to divide into 3 breakout groups. Our group isn't quite as big as we thought, but I think this will still work. So if we can go back to that previous slide. Yeah. So in your groups, so we're going to have 3 groups. But first, let's focus on the questions. What challenges do you face when implementing STEM? So thinking about what we just talked about and what STEM looks like and what kinds of skills you need, what are going to be the challenges now for you to go back to your program and actually do this? What do you need? What do you need from us in order to get to that next point? Or maybe from other organizations in your region. What are your strengths or resources? And so it might be something within your own program. It might be, wow, we have a librarian here in town who's really doing a lot of neat after school things. Maybe we could partner more with them. Maybe there's another children's museum. Maybe we have a really active 4-H educator, or maybe you don't know about those kinds of resources in your area and you need to learn more about them. Or we can help you learn more about them and access them. And what opportunities are there that you'd like to explore with a partner? So what we want to find out in your group is how can we help you at your site? And so the 3 groups that we're going to have are, there are a number of you from Madison or the Madison area, and you're going to self-select which group you want to be in. So Madison area, that's group number 1. Other southern Wisconsin, so anybody else south of Stevens Point or so, can be in that other southern Wisconsin and maybe Milwaukee area, and then northern Wisconsin. And those of you if you're in La Crosse or the Fox Valley, you can kind of decide whether you see yourself as more southern or northern. But I know we have a Park Falls person. I know we have a Wausau person that would definitely be in the north. And so those of you that are kind of in between can decide where to go. So Jennifer is going to set up those breakout groups, and we're just going to be in them for just about 10 minutes. And then we're going to come back and share. So you should be, in a few minutes, have a choice of breakout group number 1, which is Madison, number 2, other southern Wisconsin, or number 3, which is northern Wisconsin. And I'm not seeing breakout groups, Jennifer.
So it shows that they're open and some people are choosing them. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't be seeing them.
Do you see it, Shaheen? You're muted.
In the bar at the bottom of your screen, if you look next to share screen, then it goes along to the right. There's the breakout rooms highlighted.
Breakout rooms. Okay.
Yeah.
It says there's 5. Oh, I see. Madison area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm doing other southern Wisconsin. Join. Okay.
Perfect. Ricky, do you need help joining a breakout room?
Thank you for participating. I really learned a lot from Nancy and Ricky and got some
So
good
Dolly, we
ideas.
were booted out of our session before I had time to finish consulting with my people. But I will get their details and maybe I can send them both an email and finish
Oh,
up.
good. So I know you must have Brittany and Kira.
Yeah, and Angie.
Okay, and Angie. Oh, what site are you at, Angie?
Teresa Terrace Neighborhood Center right next to Elder
Okay.
Park.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, I'm glad you connected, and we will connect with you after this. This was just the
Okay.
beginning of a conversation.
Okay.
So does anybody want to share anything important that came out of their conversation? But our conversation really focused on who are their staff. Their staff are college students and high school students. So there's a real barrier there with training and turnover. And then their timing, that they really need short activities, in some cases under a half hour. And so it's really difficult to really incorporate longer activities and do long-term training for staff. So anything from the other groups that we want to share?
I guess I'll share just a little bit from the Northern group. We had a really good discussion. And I think, one of the things that it is always a consideration when you get kind of in the northern part of the state is the location. And so even though, so Cindy at Park Falls Library is maybe 5 miles or so from the school, there's not really a way for the kids to get there. The buses don't go that way, and parents are, working in after school time. So she really focuses a lot of her time on summer programming and like days off of school. And I think that's, really great. And thinking about location and how the kids actually physically get there and get home is always a consideration.
Right. Just that things are far apart from each other. Anything else from the Madison group, Shaheen?
The Madison group has the advantage that they have like, they're working like with the Arms Club at the Kennedy Heights. They come in once a week and do science with their staff. That's been going well. And Angie is working with Badger Bots, and they come in once a week and do activities.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge for us, and for maybe those of you that are in more rural areas, is to find some of those local resources that would be willing to travel to you and that would be willing to help you overcome some of those barriers that you have. And I think that's our job, is to try to come up with some of those partnerships that could help you overcome these challenges. But if you have ideas of things that you might want to reach out to, but you don't have time to contact the local science related business in Park Falls or Ripon or wherever, please let us know and email us to let us know how we can help you, because we want this to be a start of a conversation. It's not something that you or your staff are going to attend a 1 hour workshop and then automatically magically be able to lead STEM. But we wanted to give you an overview today of what it could look like, of what some of the things are that could help you, and give you some of the resources. So this is the start. We will add you to a Google group. If you're not already on there, I know some of you are, that you will receive regular mailings with resources. We will keep sending you information and ask for your feedback when we need information on what's going on in the state. And as I said, there's a grant coming up. If any of you want to find a local partner that might be a K through 12 science teacher in your district during the school day to partner with, that might want to collaborate with you in some way, either for professional development or working with your kids or STEM materials, that sort of thing, that grant will be available soon. So let's see, other things in the chat that we might want to share. Oh, one of the blessings of the pandemic is that parents will do at-home creative kits with their kids. A lot of STEM goes out that way here in Park Falls. That is a really great idea. So I think we want to get ideas from you of things that have really worked or could work that we could then help you access and come up with some of those kits, things like that. So anything else, Joanna and Shaheen?
Well, I just wanted to mention, I mentioned this in our group, and I was really happy to hear Cindy from Park Falls say that she partners a lot with our 4-H educator in Price County. And I would say, if you are looking for kind of developing some other partnerships with 4-H or Extension, please let me know. I could connect you to your local person, and I can help support that partnership with training or activities, kits, virtual, we do a lot of stuff. And so I'm always happy to do that, and you can reach out to me anytime.
Great. All right. Now Jennifer has a poll that she needs you to fill out before you leave. And hopefully that will take 1 minute and we'll be right on time.
Thank you. It's an anonymous poll, 5 questions. If you can respond, we would very much appreciate your input.
Thank you, Cindy. I'll be sending you an email shortly.
So thanks again for participating today, everybody, and you will definitely hear more from us, and please reach back with how we can help you. Shaheen and Joanna, do you want to, maybe